Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. I love this time of year. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael, and I am the teaching and discipleship pastor here at Cedarbrook, which I've always had trouble with that title because I feel like I'm more like a learning pastor. I feel like I keep learning more and more things, and then I get to just share with you what I'm learning. And today's no different. It's Christmas Eve as we think about Jesus' birth. The birth of this Messiah, right? This king. What does that mean? In fact, what does it mean, this word Emmanuel? Did you know that that's a Hebrew word meaning God with us? So we're singing this song, O come, God be with us. Isn't that kind of cool and fascinating? But here's something that's interesting, is that it didn't start with Jesus' birth. Like, that's not the first place in the Bible that Emmanuel shows up. Isn't that kind of cool? I like this kind of stuff. I think this is kind of fun, right? And it actually really connects with the whole birth narrative of Jesus. So back in Isaiah chapter 7, there's a time where the kingdom of Israel, right? They had their own kingdom. They had their own land that was theirs that they possessed. But their kingdom from King David got split up into two different kingdoms. You had the northern kingdom, right? And that they didn't have very many good kings. In fact, if you read through 1st and 2nd Kings, like, you're not going to find a good king from the northern kingdom. It's just not going to happen. And then the southern kingdom, which is the kingdom of Judah, and that was the line of David, right? The house of David. So David's line, this king, and then that was the one that God promised that would have this kingdom forever and ever. And they're waiting for a king, or as they called it, the Messiah or anointed one, to come up there and deliver them back into this one united kingdom and bringing more people into it. But at the time of Isaiah, what's happening there is the northern kingdom is going to go to war against the Assyrians. Now, talk about some bad people like that. They're bad news. But so they need to have an ally, and they wanted to make an allegiance with these people from Syria. So the Syrians, they're trying to make that connection there. And they want the kingdom of Judah, King Ahaz, they want him to partner with them as well as they're going to go to war against the Assyrians. And it's at that moment, in this time of uncertainty, this time of war, this time of disruption of life, that God comes to King Ahaz, and he speaks to him through his prophet Isaiah to let him know that he's with them. And I want you to hear this conversation that they have and how Ahaz responds to God's proposal. So I'm going to read it to you. You can just pick up on it. Isaiah chapter 7, starting in verse 11. Here's what it says. Ask the Lord your God for a sign, whether in the deepest depths or in the highest heights. But Ahaz said, I will not ask. I will not put the Lord to the test. Then Isaiah said, Hear now, you house of David. Is it not enough to try the patience of humans? Will you try the patience of my God also? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel, God with us. Do you pick up what's going on here? Right? So King Ahaz has this whole kingdom, right? There's a whole disruption going on here. Is God with them or not? And God is going to say, hey, I want you to tell me to give you a sign. You decide what that is, right? Some indication that I'm with you. Some indication that you can know that you can trust me. Some indication that you can have assurance that I'm going to see you through this, right? Do that. Go ahead. And what does King Ahaz do? No, I'm good. Right? Now, in my life, especially in times that are dark, times when I'm really having trouble and my circumstances just seem like hopeless, I would love for God to come to me and say, I'm going to be with you, but I want you to be certain of that. You tell me what you need from me so that you can experience that I am actually with you. You tell me what the sign is, right? I would love that, right? God does that for him, and he just passes. He just rejects it, completely rejects God things. So God says, all right, I'm going to give you one. All right, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be this virgin girl. She's going to conceive this child, and when this child is born, they're going to call him Emmanuel, God with us, and then you will know that I am with you. Right? Signs is the way that God shows us that he is with us. I would love to have these types of signs. Now, we may not flat out reject a sign that God gives us, but I bet that we miss the signs that God gives us, that he's with us. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own thoughts, in our own troubles, our own trials, all of that stuff, and our own distractions that we just miss the sign that God gives us, that he is actually here with us. So what I would like to help you with is to help you recognize the signs, right? How do you know that God is giving you a sign that he is with you? What does that look like? So to help you to do that, I've got a little game I want to play, all right? So this game is going to be involving some signs that we experience on a regular basis. They're road signs, okay? So anybody that's got a driver's license should be able to recognize these signs. And I'm going to put them up on the screen, and then I just want you to shout out to me what the sign means, okay? So I'm just going to pause here for a second. I want you to shout out to me the answer, because sometimes we just like, oh, that's nice, yeah, and nobody says anything. So I want you know the answer, you just shout it out, okay? It won't be too hard, okay, I promise, all right? All right, so here's the first sign. What does this mean? Pedestrian crosswalk, that's what you said? That's interesting. I thought it was for people going shopping. That's why they had a person, he must have a Merce, maybe? Saw that at a shopping mall, you would see that. But yeah, I guess pedestrian crosswalk, that makes sense. All right, well then tell me what this one means. Bicycles and pedestrians cross, yeah, I thought it was watch out for falling bicycles. Isn't that what that means? Look at that, it's above him. Why is the bicycle above him? Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Of course, then I guess if it was reversed, it'd be like, hey, jump on your bicycle, right? All right, now I got some that are a little harder because I had to look them up too. So here's the first one of these harder ones. What's that mean? Yeah, you didn't know this was a T-junction with the right-of-way, telling you which way has got the right-of-way? You didn't know that one? Yeah, me either. I had to look that up. I'm looking like Thor's hammer? What is that? What is that one? Okay, this one is super tricky. All right, super tricky. Here you go. Yep. That's what I did too. The same reaction. I sound like I have no clue what they're doing right now. Yeah, apparently this means that there is no traffic or riding of anything except if you are pushing a bicycle. Yeah, that's what I said too. Like, how do you get that out of that thing? I don't know. Anyway, okay. I got one last one. This one, I promise you, is super easy. You should all get it. Yell it out as loud as you can when you see it. What is this sign? Stop. That's right. Thank you, kids. That's awesome. It's stop, right? Stop. Very easy to see, right? It's a red sign. It's got a certain shape, right? A little octagon going on there. We can see that even if it didn't say the word stop, all of a sudden in your mind, you're going to be like, ooh, I know what that might mean. But let's just spell it out for everybody in all capital letters, S-T-O-P, stop, right? This is a sign. No one should ever miss this sign, right? So how can it be that someone in this room has driven right through it, right? Honestly, it cannot be more clear, more obvious, not only what the sign is trying to get my attention, but what I'm supposed to do. When you see this sign, what are you supposed to do? It's pretty clear, right? But in my life, when my mind is distracted, when I might be just in one of those dark places, when I've got too much stuff going on, completely miss the sign. Blow right through the stop sign. And then I start getting really scared when I realize that's what I've done. The danger that comes over me, that I didn't listen to the sign. I didn't recognize the sign, I didn't see the sign, and I blew right through the sign. I mean, what if this was a T-junction and they had the right-of-way, right? What if there was a kid crossing there and I just blew right through this? This is all the things that start going through my mind. And then after all that goes through my mind, I'm checking my rearview mirrors, wondering, was there a police officer that saw me do this? Because that's a whole nother level of fear. But that's the point. There are signs everywhere in our life. And the danger is that we miss them. We completely miss them because of the stuff going on inside of us. And I think that's true when it comes to God. I think God is giving us many signs that he is here with us. One in particular that's available to every single one of us. And we just miss it. We miss it. We get caught up in our own thoughts and our own dark things that we're going through, whatever it might be. And we miss the sign that he's with us. So I want to help you with that. I want to show you the sign that God gave us to let us know that he is with us. We're going to look at Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2 is the Christmas story, Jesus' birth story. And as you're turning there, if you need a Bible, if anybody needs a Bible, we love having people have Bibles and follow us along. Raise your hand nice and high. Our ushers have a Bible for you, so keep it up there so they can see you and get it to you if you need a Bible. You can also go to cedarbrook.info and click on notes. It has all the scripture there as well as some questions and other study material. Of course, you can always follow along online or on the screen as well. So Luke chapter 2, yes, it is about the birth story of Jesus. We're going to see that happening and unfolding. There's going to be connections back to the Isaiah passage, right? The Syrians are going to show up in this, right? As well as this line of David or this house of David is going to show up here as well. But what I would like you to pay attention to is if you can pick up on the sign. Can you see the sign that God is giving that he is with us? All right? So let's start Luke chapter 2, starting in verse 1. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. And everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. Did you see the sign? It's pretty subtle, actually. It's a pretty subtle sign. But we did see some connecting points, didn't we? Right? This place of the Syrians. We saw the house of David. Can you put yourself into the place of this couple? They're having to go back to a place to register for a census, to be counted. And they're going from their small little town of Nazareth through Jerusalem to Bethlehem, and there's a bunch of people that are from there. They have to go and register. There's tons of people, so many people, that they can't find a place to stay. And she is pregnant, about ready to give birth. And the guy she's with, well, it's not his kid either. In my thinking, I would think a pregnant woman would take priority of some things, right? Somebody has got to give her a room to be in, but there isn't. And so she is going to be out where the animals are. And sometimes I think we romanticize this a little bit. Like we got the little manger there in the nativity scene. It's all nice and clean. A little baby Jesus is in there. Like, do you know what a manger is? It's a place where it's a food trough for animals, right? And what is she doing? She's just doing what any good mother would do for their newborn baby. She wraps him in some cloths to keep him warm and dry, and she makes the best of what she has. She lays him in this place of a crib, and it's a manger, right? That's what she's doing. But what's the sign? What's the sign? This is one of those you have to read a little bit further for us to figure out what the sign is. So let's continue reading the rest of the story and see if you can pick up on the sign. Verse 8. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what they had been told about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. Well, what was the sign? The baby, specifically, in the manger, wrapped in cloths. That's what you're going to find, right? Not an angel showing up, right? Sometimes I feel like that's me. I want to, if I want a sign, if I'm going to pick the sign, like, God, in this moment where I'm at, show up big time. I want to see with certainty, send an angel, tear the heavens open, right? I want a choir of angels singing, so then I will know. That's not the sign. That's not the sign. The sign comes from an everyday life experience, something that this young mother is just trying to do for her child, right? In fact, if you go back and you read throughout all the Old Testament, you are not going to find this sign, right? It doesn't say, there's going to be this virgin that's going to conceive, and she's going to have a child, and then she's going to wrap him in some cloths, and then she's going to lie him in the manger. It doesn't say that. That's not what it says. God is taking this everyday life thing, this everyday life experience thing, something we could experience everywhere, something that's just part of our life, and he's using that as a sign, which makes sense for these shepherds, right? They're off out in the field. They got the sheep out there. They have this huge experience, right? They witness these angels. It's telling them, and to confirm it, they go back, and they're looking for a baby wrapped in cloths lying in the manger. Not in some hotel room, not in a hospital, right? None of those places. Where are they going to go? They're going to look for where animals are. That's where they're going to look so they can find this baby in the manger. So it can be not only confirmed of what has been told them, but they can start spreading this good news to everyone else of what they heard and what they have seen. Something right in their everyday life. No wonder why we can miss it sometimes. Because I think this is what God does. He takes these everyday life things to tell us over and over and show us over and over that he's with us. He's right here with us in the midst of our darkness, in the midst of our trials, right? In the midst of everything that we're going through. God's right there, and we miss it. Maybe because we're looking for something more. Maybe because we're just so focused on what's going on inside that we aren't really seeing the sign. Yet the sign is there. In fact, the sign that is available to each and every one of us, if we're willing to see it, if we have eyes to see, if we look for it, it's right there in front of us. Something that's been available to us most of our lives, right? It's just something that is there. It's not just Jesus born in a manger on Christmas Day. It's Jesus' whole life. His whole life is the sign. As you read about Jesus' life, you see over and over and over, he's showing people that he is God right among them, walking among them, teaching them, getting them to the heart, the core of what God wants for people and how they are to live. He's performing miracles to reveal to people that he is more than just a human being. It's going to be said of him that he experiences everything that we experience. He's tempted in the same way that we're tempted. He understands what it's like to be a human being. And his whole life is a sign pointing to him as God with us. What we call the Old Testament is pointing forward to Jesus. What we call the New Testament is pointing backwards to Jesus. It's all focused on who Jesus is as God with us. And it's right here in an everyday form of a book, letters on the page, chapters, verse numbers, right? And we miss it sometimes. So my encouragement to you is to start reading about Jesus' life. Start reading this book that is pointing to him as the sign that God is with us. And the more and more you read, the more and more time you spend learning about Jesus' life and how he is God with us, the easier it will be to be able to see the signs out in everyday life of how God is with you in every single circumstance. And maybe for you, you don't have a Bible at home. And if that's you, if you don't have a Bible at home, we encourage you to take one of our Bibles. Take it with you. We have ushers that will hand them to you if you want one on the way out. And for some of us, we might go like, this is overwhelming for me. I have a Bible and I don't really know where to start with this Bible. I'm not even really sure what this Bible is and how I can get deeper meaning out of my reading. Well, good news. We have a Discover the Bible 101 class that we're going to be doing here at Cedarbrook, right? To help you with that, to help you know what the Bible is and how you can engage with it to get deeper meaning out of it. And you can start reading for yourselves and start seeing how Jesus is the sign that God is with us. Now, maybe for some of you, you've started reading. You started reading, and you like some of the beginning of it because, you start at the beginning because that's where you start with the book, right? You start in the beginning. And you like the first early stories about creation, things like that. And then you get to a book called Leviticus. Those that didn't laugh fell asleep right then. It's like one of those trigger words, right? Like some people count sheep, other people go Leviticus, right out, right? Leviticus, and you get to that and you just kind of give up because you're like, I don't know how to make sense of this. I don't understand this. There's a bunch of questions I have now, right? And you get more and more questions, and maybe you're just a person that has a lot of questions about the Bible or God or about Jesus and all of that. Well, that's good. We love questions here. We love questions here so much. We have something very special for you if you've got a question.